Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this live stream. So, in today's live stream, I'm going to go ahead and create a realistic bathroom in Enscape and SketchUp. We're going to go through the whole process: modeling, textures, materials, lighting, and all of that stuff, as well as some visual settings in the end with the Enscape settings that we have here. So first off, I want everyone to let me know if you can hear me well. That is very important throughout the live stream, as well as if you can just tell me where you're watching from, that would be great. That way I kind of know the demographic of the whole audience. So in the live stream, we're going to go through and try to recreate some of the renders that I found here, which are made from Anastasia Jurikova, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And this is just a Behance project that I found online that I will go ahead and try to recreate with Enscape and SketchUp. Obviously, this is made with 3ds Max and Corona Render, so the expectations should be a bit lower than this since we're using a different kind of rendering engine. But other than that, I think we can get straight into it. I do have the SketchUp file open right here. I did try to just get a few of the 3D models, that way we don't waste too much time in the SketchUp warehouse while we're live streaming. So we have people from Greece, from the United Arab Emirates, from India, Philippines. So it's a diverse audience. That is really great to know. So thank you everyone for joining in. Right now we are at 19 viewers, which is pretty good since these kind of videos, most people try to rewatch them later on. But the good thing is that throughout the live stream, you will have the opportunity to ask me any kind of questions that you want to ask, as well as any type of suggestions or requests that you might have throughout the process. So I'm going to get started first off by just drawing the room. I'm going to try and organize my little screens over here better. That way I have more space to draw and do the modeling. So first off, let's just draw the floor. And then somewhere here, we're going to have to do the offset with the F key in SketchUp. I can see that here on the back, we will have a window later on that we will need to add on. And then there's going to be another one right there. And now I'm just going to make this probably at the height of something around 320 centimeters, which right now it is not that, it is a lot higher. So let's go back to 320. And now I will go ahead and draw a rectangle with something like this, maybe 20 centimeters, and try to cover it up like the whole ceiling. But in order to actually be able to model a lot better, I'm going to go ahead at Tools here in SketchUp, use a section plane from the top all the way to where we can actually see the inside and where the ceiling doesn't interrupt us. So let's just move this upwards. And now somewhere here in the middle, I'm watching from Slovakia, Europe. Hello, thank you for joining in. Now we're going to go ahead and draw a quick wall right here. Maybe this is way too thick, so maybe we can go with something a bit like this. And I will do this 320 centimeters as well. Now, what will happen here is that we will have one bath on this side. And I'm going to move it horizontally while aligning it with the axis with the keys on the keyboard. And then I'm going to move it all the way here. So something like this. And then on this side, we will need to model some of the basin elements. Now, what I want to do is, first off, I want to make this a group, because later on we might need to do a little bit of tweaking in terms of kind of the size of it. I think we would need more space here at the back and the front of it. But as of now, let's just continue. So from what I can tell is that we will need, first off, a rectangle here. So maybe something like this. And these seem to be a bit not so wide, so thinner. So let me just grab this once again. And now I will go ahead and use the arc tool right here, because there are rounded corners in the actual object that we have. So I'm going to go on this side and just use the arc tool on one side, select this, copy it over here, and then I'll just flip it along. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to go ahead to flip along, and that doesn't work. So I'm not going to waste any more time trying to guess which axis I should do it, because every single time I try to use the flip along tool, I always end up using the wrong axis, and I'm never used to remembering which axis is which color. So anyway, I'm going to do this somewhere around probably 65 centimeters, because once we also have the basin on top, so we're going to need to add 2 of these sinks, basins, whatever you want to call them, over here. So something like this, and then another one over here. It seems like this is just way too big, so I'm going to make this a group. I'm going to use the S for scale, and then I will make it a lot smaller on both sides. And then we'll need to make the same thing with the wall here. So let's just move this over here just a bit. I think it has more space on the right side now. Okay, so now what we need to do is I will go ahead and draw the mirror the same way that I have here on the reference image. So as you can see right here, we have kind of an irregular mirror, which is completely fine because we can draw that pretty easily with the hand draw tool in SketchUp. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the freehand tool, and then let me just check once again. Okay, so it has to be something like this. I'm gonna go inside the group, I'm gonna use the freehand tool, and it has something similar of this shape. Maybe not as irregular, so maybe I just cut this part off, then delete this surface completely. And now what we can do in order to make this a mirror is, first off, I need to move this a little bit downwards. So let me just check how I can do that without losing the whole composition. I need to take this off first, then I can use the M key for moving, and then align it on the vertical axis, which seems to be the blue axis now that I'm actually paying attention to what color the axes are. So something like this, maybe a tiny bit higher because now it's too low. And now I will offset this, or maybe I will push it forward maybe first 1.5 centimeters. And now I can offset this because there's going to be a different material on here in the edges. Now we will also need to use these 2 lights on the side. So one of them is going to be over here, and then the other one is going to be on the other side. And let's just finally add some more elements around the basin and all that. So I'm going to go ahead, add the 3D warehouse, and I'm just going to type in basin. Let me just check what we have here. I'm going to try and find something similar to the example that I showed earlier where we are actually referencing from. So maybe I just choose this one, and then I just put it kind of from the side, maybe not on the wall like we have on the example. I'm trying to place it somewhere that we can see, but this is just way too big. Let me turn off the cut. I'm not sure why people model these kind of stuff in the 3D warehouse where it's completely off scale, maybe for higher resolution. So when it is a lot smaller, it actually has higher quality. But anyway, now I'm gonna continue and scale this down even further. I'm gonna copy it. And now our model seems to be completely zoomed out from where we need it to be. And this is a very, very weird problem that I usually have with SketchUp. So as you can see right now, I will have to... can anyone let me know that uses SketchUp a lot more often on why this happens? Sometimes it just basically just loses the whole model and where it is. But let me just check real quick. Let me just fix it up. I'm going to try and open the SketchUp tab once again. So just keep in mind that this is going to be where we're going to base off our whole image in SketchUp. So let me just try once again. Sometimes the software is just all over the place. So let me just go and open Enscape first and see if we can find it that way, and then we can match or synchronize views somehow. So John Paul is watching from Nigeria. Thank you for joining, John. Okay. Let's check. One second. So Salami is also watching from Nigeria. Someone is watching from Ukraine. That is very cool. I mean, hope that you're safe over there. Let me just go to camera, parallel projection. We'll just see if we can find it from the top somehow. Perspective. It's very strange that sometimes I can just zoom out the... Okay, because I think I need to use the zoom extends button. 1 second, zoom extends. Okay, so we're here, we're back on it. Okay, this is good. Now we finally found it. I'm gonna continue and keep doing this. So let me just open the reference image once again that we have here. And now we were actually going to place something on the basin real quick. Let me just go back to the SketchUp warehouse and just type in basin. Let me just download something. Kind of the same model that we had earlier. So maybe we can just download this one. I mean, this works completely fine. We can just take that part of the basin off and apply it on the press S to zoom. Yeah, I know that I can zoom with the Z key. The thing is that I needed to use the zoom extends tool, which is the one right here, in order to zoom into the whole model that I had. So anyway, now it's fixed, so no issues with that. It always happens somehow, and I think it's because of my mouse. It has some weird controls that when you zoom in and out with the scroll button, it is like it doesn't stop. And this is very, very low quality, so I'm gonna go ahead another time with a basin. As you can see, this is literally why I went and got some of the 3D models online. That way we don't waste too much time during the live stream, but it's completely fine still. So I'm just going to take this off completely, take the pictures and everything off. So a lot of people ask me a lot of the times where I get the 3D models, and to be honest, there's not much going on in terms of the 3D models. Most of the time I'm just getting them. See, it did it again, so it basically just zoomed out once again. I basically just get them from the 3D warehouse, which is probably the most reliable place where you can get 3D models from, and that is just because of the variety as well as also the quality most of the time. I mean, you can do some pretty good filtering on the 3D warehouse in order to find high quality models. And yeah, hi from Senegal. Nice to have you here as well. Thank you for joining. Okay, so another thing that we need to add here. Yes, that's true, but I haven't set up. So Christian is saying whenever I get lost in a model, I just use the camera and go previous or to the back scene, to the last scene that I was. And that is true, but I haven't set up any composition yet because I'm still doing some of the modeling work over here. So I'm just going to move this up 1.2 centimeters and then another 1.2 centimeters. And now I'm just going to move all of these elements 1.2 centimeters upwards. I assign, yeah, I get you. Okay, now let's just add the windows here. So in order to add the windows, I'm just going to draw a rectangle first. I'm going to move this. Well, this is just way too big. First of all, I'm going to make it a lot thinner. So something like this, and maybe a little bit more to the inside. So I'm going to move this upwards, maybe 2 centimeters, maybe more, maybe 4 more centimeters. And then I'm going to draw another rectangle like this, copy this one on the other side. And now let's just move this upwards over here. Okay, and now I'm gonna go ahead and draw this. Now let's just pull this all the way through, and now I'm gonna go ahead and the materials just that way that I know that we're going to go ahead and apply glass on this window, and then I'm going to do anthracite or like a black metal throughout. Now the thing is, I do want this a little bit more upwards, that way it does look more balanced in terms of the dimensions of the whole frame. So I'm going to go to colors once again. I'm going to choose something, not the whole, like the most black metal that we can find, but something like dark gray would work. Let me just go ahead on the outsides as well. And now what I can do here is I can just group this and move it on the other side. So let me just move it over here, and this can kind of work. Now let's just make the whole cut active. And from what I can see here on this side, so for this view, there's a few other elements that we can add, like this little curtain. Bumi is watching from Indonesia. Thanks for joining in. I know that there's a huge part of the demographic that watches the channel from Indonesia, from the Philippines, India, United States, and all that. So very, very grateful to have you here. Okay, so now I'm going to continue with the rest. Now, first of all, what I would want to do is maybe I go ahead and open the Enscape window right now. And then we can set up the first composition, or the first camera for our review is going to be the one with the 16:9 ratio that we have here. I do have the Enscape window right now, so maybe I just use the save frame tool, make this a lot smaller. As you can see, it's looking pretty much awful right now because there's no settings in it. The sun is just way too strong. It has 3 points perspective. It's just missing a lot of elements. So first off, let's go ahead and fix our first view that we have here. I'm gonna go ahead and use another section plane. So if I go and use the section plane tool right here, press OK, and then move this a lot more forward. Now we're gonna have this opened up. Now I'm gonna open the Enscape window tab, and I'm gonna go ahead and just use the field of view that is much lower. Use the rendering quality ultra, and other than that, I'm just going to try and find a good angle. Something like this would fit. If you actually need some more assistance in terms of the composition, you can always go to the video editor right here, use show grid lines, and then these will serve kind of as guidelines on how well you're positioning your whole model and all that. So I'm going to try and keep it something like this. I'm going to take this off completely, and I'm going to go to camera, create view, and I'm going to type in view 1 16:9 because that is the aspect ratio of this. So let me just make this wider, click create. And now we have this view kind of set up in terms of the composition, and we can go ahead and create this render. Now, first off, what we do need to do here, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the sun brightness completely, because later on we're going to see how we can use some fake lighting in order to make the whole rendering look much more realistic. Something else that I'm gonna do here in the window is I will add another kind of division on the frames, or like sashes. So let me just move this all the way on the other side. And now what I can do also is I will add the little curtain that we had here, or let me just see. Someone said, I see you zooming a lot. Why don't you create 3 scenes, an exterior scene with an active section scene and one focused on the thing you are designing? It reduces a lot of movement. Thank you. The thing is, I already have done that in the Enscape window. I myself like to use different angles when I am modeling. So sometimes it is not going to be super useful if I just model from this angle. So let's just test that out. For example, if I load this up and then I have to place it over here, as you can see, first of all, I cannot even see the rolling curtain. I do not know where it is placed. So that's why I'm going to need to move. And as you can see, things are not very static when you're modeling. In the rendering window, yes, I do like to leave it only opened in one position and like a static angle. But when I'm modeling, I always prefer to be moving, try to get different angles and all that. I mean, you guys let me know if you find this more useful as well. Okay, so now we have the rolling kind of curtain there. And next up, what we would need to do here is I'm gonna go ahead and try to add a little bit of division between some of the cupboards or cabinets that we will have here. So something here in the middle, and then I will move this about 0.25 centimeters, or maybe 0.5 centimeters, and then on the other side 0.5 centimeters. I'll take this off completely, move this in about 2 centimeters as well. Now let's just move this 0.5 once again, move this in 0.5, and let's just do the whole thing once again. So on this side as well. This is just to kind of create divisions and make the whole area look much more realistic in terms of the cabinets, in terms of the cupboards and all of that stuff. So we can continue now with the rest of the tools. One thing I do notice a lot is that sometimes, as you can see this part right here, it is tricky to model, especially on the angles. I know that there's a tool called something like follow the path or follow the line in SketchUp, but that is not very possible a lot of the time. So let me just check if I can find that on the SketchUp on the SketchUp material library, because a lot of the times you can find those kind of 3D wood with depth and all of that, and then just maybe we can use planks. So let me just scroll down. So beams, let me just download this and see how this will look over here. So if I just put this here, obviously this is just way too big right now, but I will make them a lot smaller. Let me just check in a few seconds. This is 100. Maybe I just need to do this like 10, which is way too small. Maybe I can do it 30, which is a bit better, but maybe let's try 40. Okay. So this fits all right. So as you can see, this and the example that we have here looks similar. I think we need to make this a lot higher though, because it is just way too low. The whole basin and the whole setup right now, it is just way too low. But before we do that, let me just apply the material correctly in all of these white surfaces that we need to fix up. I'm gonna get a lot closer to those as well, and let me just check. Okay, so can you guys let me know in the comment section what kind of projects are you doing recently, and do you find any like kind of trend that has been going on with your project that you cannot kind of get the right idea of how to make it work in Enscape? Because the reason why I'm doing the bathroom project right now is that a lot of the times I do get comments on people just asking me about bathroom projects, and most of the time they are very tricky for the lighting, and sometimes they do not have openings, which I understand can be very tricky since you do not have any light source. But even though this project is not a representation of that, because we do have a light source here, the thing is that even when you don't have a light source, it's not anything super complicated. You will just still have to add some fake lighting and all that stuff, because you cannot always rely on the sun lighting or the default Enscape sky. I think the default Enscape sky is alright when you're using Azure Eyes in the exterior, but for interiors, there's really not many cases that I use it. I always try to use fake lighting or artificial lighting that will act as the sun. That way we have some kind of rays coming in. So yeah. Okay, so now it's looking much better except for the mirror. I will have to go inside. Let me just select all of these surfaces. Okay, so the mirror that we have here seems like it is not correctly grouped. So I will move this all the way back, and now I can just use the alignment on the vertical axis, move this forward once again 2.5 centimeters, and then this for 2. Someone said, looking forward to taking your course soon. Thank you very much. I mean, there's a lot of people right now that are have joined the course, and the thing is that right now I'm updating all the classes, so it's the perfect time to actually join, because it's going to be updated with the newest version of Enscape. I'm adding a lot more stuff there. And the other thing is that I have designed it perfectly that you can learn Enscape with the lowest effort possible, with the fastest time frame and all of that, because honestly, it took me a lot of time to learn Enscape, and the reason being is that there wasn't too many online resources 4 years ago when I started using Enscape. But now I've developed a method that you can learn Enscape in only 14 days and get probably as good as you can get with Enscape. Obviously, you will need practicing and all of that, but the thing is, Enscape truly is blessing in the 3D community because it's super easy, it's fast, it doesn't take too much power from your computer, and I thought that it would be the perfect tool to use throughout the course in order to learn realistic rendering in just 14 days. So if everyone is interested in learning realistic rendering from start to finish in just 14 days, you can click the link in the description as well as the pinned comment. So yeah. Someone said designing a bakery interior now. Yeah, I haven't done too much bakery projects, even through my freelancing stuff. But I do enjoy them whenever I get the chance to do them because they're kind of unique and they do represent a very good examples of commercial projects. So yeah. Anyway, let's now move on to what we have going on next. Now I think we will move on to some more materials. First off, I'm going to apply some kind of industrial flooring. I can do that kind of using this concrete and making the changes in the colors of it, maybe making it a little bit more beige, maybe moving a little bit over here. Let me just try how this will look on the floor. Now this is way too harsh and way too dark, so I can go ahead here and make some changes, make this even brighter. So something like this can work. And then something else that can definitely help along is if you go to the Enscape material editor, and I choose it right now, I can use the image fade option. I can go a little bit upwards and kind of fade it back to something like this. Now this will take off some of the very high amount of textures that he had. And something else that I'm also noticing is that this wood material is very highly saturated, so I'm gonna have to turn that down and turn up the light, so now it looks a bit more balanced. Now the other thing that we're going to need to do is I'm going to show you how we can download SketchUp or materials, PBR materials in general, when we don't have those that we need in our disposal in the Enscape material library. So I'm going to go ahead here at the ambientcg.com, and I can see that we do have some plaster materials, but we do need something beige with kind of harsh texture. Maybe something like this can work. So let me just try this out. Maybe I can just download this as a 2K texture, or maybe let's just go for 4K. I think the computer can handle it, even though I'm live streaming right now. So by the way, I do have a very special video coming up next week. Actually, two very special videos. So one of them is going to be a podcast that I recorded with upstairs, obviously one of the OGs of the creator space in architecture, especially on YouTube. And then that is going to be very fun, so make sure that you actually turn on the notification bell button to be notified when that comes out. And then after that, let me just make this large. So after that, we'll also have another video coming up which has to do with the Photoshop post-production. So let me just give you kind of a sneak peek of what you can expect from that. So I do have the actual thumbnail downloaded here. So something like this is going to be the video that will come up during next week. So stay tuned for that and make sure that you turn on the notification bell button. But enough of that. Right now I'm going to go ahead and download the texture that I just got from AmbientCG, basically the plaster texture. So I'm going to get the color of it, click OK, and now I'm going to go ahead and apply this texture onto our walls. So let's just go ahead, apply it here, apply it on all the walls. It is way too small right now. As you can see, it looks awful. It does look very bad, but I can show you how we can fix this along. So let me just take a look over here on the window. Can I change the color of the floor directly to Enscape, or I have to modify in SketchUp? You can change it directly in Enscape, but the thing is, I like to use a combination of both when I'm modifying the materials. I try to use both Enscape and SketchUp to modify the materials because there's some really cool SketchUp options that Enscape doesn't have, and then there's some very cool Enscape options that SketchUp doesn't have when modifying the materials. So I try to use a combination of both throughout the whole process. Anyway, so right now this is looking very much kind of grayish, which I'm not a fan of. And for some reason, our whole texture is kind of messed up right now. I'm not sure why it's coming up like that. However, let me just check once again. I'm going to go ahead in this hue color. So basically, I'm going to try and make it a bit more beige. and this doesn't work. Let me just go back to what we had here. This is very, very bad. Obviously, you cannot guess all of the colors in the first try, or all of the materials in the first try. So I'm gonna try and make something work here. This is not working once again, so let me just go ahead and use the Enscape material. So this is the exact reason why I try to use a combination of both, because not all the time you cannot. Let's see, the reason being is that we do have the displacement map from the beams. First off, before I change the actual color of it, I'm going to go ahead and apply the displacement map or normal map of it, and then the roughness map as well. Maybe the roughness, I will try to make it manually. Now this is way too much, so I'm going to go for 0.5. I'll just make this something like 40, and then we will try and add a tint to it. So let me just make this a lot more onto here. This is way too much. This needs to be a lot warmer as well. Something like this. I think this is kind of close to what we have here. It is a bit warmer on this image, especially the floor, but we can fix the floor later on. But I think as far as the wall goes, it's looking very good, right? It's looking similar. Let me know what you think in the chat, and I will take that into consideration. Now we also need to apply the same material here on the ceiling. And then other than that, I'm going to go ahead and try to tweak the flooring as well a little bit. So I'm going to go with the advanced tab here and keep it something like this. Okay. So this kind of works fine. So now I will go ahead and apply the mirror material. I'm going to go here in model, go to glass and mirrors. Obviously, we all know that real-time rendering engines do not have the highest quality mirrors, but we're going to try and see what we can make out of it. We can always fix these with post-production, by the way, which is why I'm also doing the Photoshop training for all of you guys right now, because not all of the best features are available within the software that we use. So keep that in mind. Okay, so now I will go ahead and find good material for the basin, the countertop, and all of that. So let me just move forward. So something like this. I think I'm going to go ahead at ambient CG once again. I will go to materials, and then I can just type in, let me just try and find kind of a stone that can match with that, or maybe it's marble. It has to be beige though. Something like this can kind of work, but not really. It has to be a bit less warm, so maybe colder. Let me just try in marble. When I try tints, I either type the color I'm looking for in Google with RGB, or use the SketchUp tool to copy color from the picture I'm aiming for. I mean, that definitely works as well. The thing is, when I use the advanced tool, so let me just first find the material that I'm looking for here. This can work. Not quite what I'm looking for though. So let's just let me just try beige. So I'm just gonna type in beige. The thing is, I do feel like there's more freedom when you're actually using the Enscape material editor and then you're using the advanced tab. So if I just choose this, for example, I can always just go to the advanced tab and just select the color manually. Obviously, RGB colors work very well. I do use them from time to time, but in this instances, when I do not have kind of a set or a very precise kind of project that I'm going for, this is just more for fun. In those type of projects, I just go ahead and try to guess. You can kind of train your eye even with that kind of way that I'm doing. So yeah, I think the best option to go for here is this one, and then maybe I can just make it a lot smaller. So let me just download it in 2K. I'll open this up. I will open this up in the PC as well. So I'll move it to desktop, and then I will go back to our SketchUp tab. I will go and open it up, load as new material, go in desktop, and just use a new texture that we downloaded in ambient CG. So I will select this. I will apply it right here. And now it's going to be a bit of a challenge when trying to apply this and trying to guess the right size of it. So let me just see how this will go. If I open this up, you can see that the whole placement on these is not done very well, especially on the left one. So let me just try once again. Maybe I can take this off, copy it, and it will look much better. Or not. Or I can just make this whole texture smaller, maybe like 20, and then make it a bit brighter on the HLS section. Something like this is a lot closer though, right? First off, I do need to take off the displacement, and then turn off the image fade a bit. Maybe make this a lot bigger. Maybe we didn't need to make this smaller, so okay, let's just go for something like this. This does look all right. It doesn't look very bad. Jay Shri from India, hello. Hello, nice to meet you. Thank you for joining in. Now I'm gonna go and use the image fade once again. I'll go ahead and make it a lot. I'll make it have some more reflections. It's kind of like this, and then I will add a bump map. And let's just make this a bit darker. It is not looking exactly the same as we had here. Let me just check. It's not looking exactly the same as we had here. I mean, it does look much better there. It is a bit cleaner. Maybe I have to go and find it in some other sites. Let me try share textures. So I can just type in beige, which is the color which we're looking for here. And nothing to find here either. So this kind of texture, I really like how it looks there. Now the thing is, this does look a bit like, let me just check. Let me just go over here in the Enscape material library and go to tiles, because we might have something close to that, but not, no. The kind of texture is very high quality and it's hard to find online for free. And the thing is, I do want to try and use as much free materials as possible throughout the process. Let me just check if this one is good actually. So I'm going to apply it. Okay, so this one is actually much closer to the one that is there. So I think I will use this one. Okay, this is much better. Let's just keep it. Okay. Now let's go back to the view that we had here, view 1. And now we add some lighting coming from the outside. Zoom extents once again. As you can see, we're always losing the modeling. I'm not sure why this happens so often with SketchUp. Now let's go and use the line tool. Go upwards and on the inside. Now let's go with a plus icon, use the spotlight, click the center of it and just move it there. Now let's just go over here, 4x, select the whole thing, move it vertically, align it. Now we need to move a little bit faster because we just took too much time with just that one material. Now in order to have the lighting come in better, I'm going to use the beam angle as high as possible. And this is just way too much. So I'm going to move it even further back and upwards. So maybe something like this. Let me just try it going over here on the back. Maybe having it on this angle works a bit better. I think I like this angle best because if we go to the reference that we have here, it's kind of coming from multiple sides and it's very soft, which I do like the lighting there. Maybe we do need to make the intensity a bit lower. Let me just check if I go on the other side and kind of have both lighting coming inwards. Let me just change the angle of it. I think this is very much similar to what we have here. I think the shadows are a bit stronger and there's more lighting coming more inwards, but I think something like this can definitely work. However, we do need to add some lighting on these lamps as well. So I'm going to go ahead here in the Enscape material editor. I'm going to select these. I will go ahead and apply a color on top of them. So let's just use something like this. And on the other side as well, let's go to self-illuminated. And as you can see, these are kind of turned on right now. We do not need them as much intensity as they had now. Someone said maybe some concrete with beige tint might work. Yes, something like that can work, but luckily we found it on the Enscape material library, from which we didn't expect it at all, honestly, at least me. And then now we can just go ahead and add a sphere light on these, which will be very, very, very soft because it's very daytime, and harsh lighting will just look very, very fake. I can increase the radius and I can lower the intensity, something like this. And then on the other side as well. Now, what I do not like here is the default Enscape sky that we have. So I'm gonna go ahead and in the sky, I'm gonna go to Skybox, load Skybox from file, and I'm gonna import an HDRI. By the way, I do tell people all the time to use HDRIs, and I think a lot of you are applying them. However, if you do not know what HDRIs are, they're basically images taken from the real world, which use real life lighting in order to apply onto the renders. And as you can see right here, our render has improved quite a bit just by using that kind of lighting. Now the thing is, what I would like to do here is I would like to add some more elements, at least some accessories here on the top, maybe a plant there and all of that stuff. So maybe let's go and make this smaller. I'm going to go ahead in the asset library. Let's go to vegetation and try to find some interior plants. Now I'm going to go and scroll down just a little bit. I'm going to drink a bit of water. By the way, let me know, do you really want to see more often live streams like this? Because I do feel like there's not, at least from what I know, there's not anyone that does these kind of live streams for 3D rendering, or even the architecture industry in general. I mean, architecture representation industry. So something like this can work here. Let me try and use 3 different plants with 3 different heights. So something like this, and then something kind of in the middle range. I do like this a lot, so let me move this a bit forward. IS profiles do not work for these. I mean, in sphere lights. There's no IS profile option in the sphere lights. I know you can add spotlights, but the thing is, I do want to use lighting that distributes in all directions with the same value. So yeah. Okay, let's just add these. Maybe I do make this a bit smaller. Maybe I keep this more to the right. Keep this a bit, something like this. Make this a tiny bit smaller as well, because they were catching, it was getting too much attention, which I did not want. And then the other thing is, I do want to fix this curtain material over here as well, which I overlooked because it takes a bit of time, but I'm going to take this off completely, and we do not want transmittance. I'm going to go for cutout in the transparency map, and then let me just check. I do have a mesh that I use for the curtain material. If not, we can always go to Google, and I'm just going to type in curtain mesh cutout. So curtain transparency map. So if you go on Google and search in curtain transparency map that I have here, we can just get this from the Enscape forum, and I will download it. So it will go as save image. And then over here in the Enscape material editor, I can just load up the actual cutout. And as you can see, once it loads up, it will have transparency in all of the white or black spots, whatever you set it up to. But this one is just way too big, so I'm going to make it a lot smaller, something like 0.2, maybe even smaller, 0.1. And then also I will make it self-illuminated. That way it doesn't look like there's much more lighting coming in from that side. The thing is, this part is very, very, very dark. Now what I'm going to do in this instance is, let me just check the reference image once again. It's very dark over here as well. However, it's a bit colder, so our image is a bit too warm. Let me just see what I can do here. Now, first off, these being gold, brass, do look way better, so I'm going to go ahead and make that change as well. However, let me just go on the SketchUp tab to do that. So I will select the material, I will go to Enscape material editor, I will go to something like this, metallic up to the max, and then roughness all the way down, maybe a bit on this side. Now what we can do as well is I will go once again at the image. I do feel like the image here has a bit more shadows and it's a bit too soft. Maybe the image that we have here is a bit too lit up. Let me play around a little bit with the visual settings. So I can use auto contrast, that is fine for now. The saturation, I can leave it a bit lower, maybe 98%. And then color temperature, a bit colder, that is way too much. Maybe I keep the saturation higher and then try to balance it with the color temperature. So something like this. And then motion blur, I do not want it, no lens flare. Maybe lens flare will kind of give a good effect here. I usually leave all of these off except the vignette, but let's just leave lens flare on this one on. And then for the atmosphere settings, shadow sharpness all the way down, artificial brightness. Let's just keep this kind of on default, ambient brightness all the way up. And let me just check over here. We definitely need to make a solution for that part, because that being way too dark is not what I want in this image. And all of these are fine. I'm going to go ahead and analyze the reference image once again. So if I go over here, you can see that there's a few things that we need to take care of right now. Let's just add, first of all, this towel, because this brings it a bit to life. And then I will add some lights in the direction where it comes directly onto this wall, and that will kind of balance things out, I think. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to move it. I will rotate it. Let's just move it a bit forward, keep it a bit downwards. I'm trying to use this. Okay, so this is exactly what is happening on the image over here. So as you can see, we're very, very similarly close to what we have. I think that we do need to lower the displacement on the wall map, because it's just way too high and we do not want it as harsh as it is right now. It is not looking very bad, but it can definitely look better. So let's just make it 0.2. And then let me just tone this down a bit. Something like this definitely does look better. This is much, much closer to what we have here. So this is the reference image, and then this is our image. The mirror can definitely look better. Ours looks way too rough on the edges. This one has a bit better curves and all of that. And then I think these lights, these wall lights look a bit too harsh. We can add some accessories here, and we can add the towel there, and then we will be pretty much done, I would think. However, let me just move this a bit upwards and just see how this would look like. Maybe I can leave it like this. Let me just test this out first. Okay. So first thing that we actually needed to fix is I'm going to go ahead in the mirror. I'm going to select this, and let me just go ahead with a freehand tool. I'm going to draw over the wall. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Let's just make it less rough. So maybe a bit more curves on this. Move this upwards. Use the mirror material. Move this out of the mirror because it does add a bit of a weird reflection on it. Even more on this side. And then I'm going to do the same with this part over here. Boom. Okay. This does look a bit closer with what we had there. Now let me just keep all of this at the same level, because right now it's going to be all messed up in the 3D modeling. So it's going to look much better like this. And then this part, I'm definitely going to want to take that off, because it does look like a very, very violent part where someone can just cut their part off. I mean, their kind of face when being in the bathroom there. It doesn't look safe at all. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know why I took it that path, but anyway. I'm going to move this all the way back. And I'm going to do the same with this part. So if I go with a freehand tool once again, I'm going to go like this. Move it all the way back. And now we kind of make it a bit maybe just a bit softer. Let's just try and use the arc tool. So something like this can work. Something like this can work. Take this off all the way back. Use it here. And yeah, this is definitely much better than what we had. Let's go ahead and try and find a towel in the 3D warehouse. So towel, and then for the mapping texture, what do you think finding texture resource images in the Pinterest? I usually never find texture resource images in Pinterest. It's usually ambient CG, shared texture, and all that. So yeah, the mirror is a mess. Yeah, I know. I know. I went I mean, it wasn't the best way to actually model it. But look, the good thing is that if you go here in Enscape, you cannot really tell what happened there. So that is a good thing. So no one's going to take a look at the SketchUp modeling. Just look over here at the Enscape tab, and everything's going to be fine. I'm going to take this and place it right over there. Okay, let's just see where it is placed in the reference image. Someone said not even close to the reference image. That's completely fine. It is true that this was done with a Corona render. So yeah. Someone said, let me just move this on the right spot, and then I will read the comments. Wow. Okay. Someone said, I'm having a problem with Enscape. The models from the Enscape library are showing in SketchUp, but not in Enscape. Honestly, your best bet would be to try and reach the Enscape support team, because I am not sure what is happening in the new updates. I think there's some bugs I did see in the forum. However, I myself am not having any issues with that, so I'm just going to continue doing my job here. Now what we can do here, I'm going to go ahead in the SketchUp warehouse, and I'm going to type in bathroom accessories. Let's just check the reference image once again. They only had two little kind of shampoos, stuff like that. So let me just go, and I think I can use something like this, right? Let's just load this up. I will keep this on the side here. I'm gonna wait until it loads up on the SketchUp tab. This does work well, I believe. So let me just make this smaller. I think it will look better on this side because it will be more balanced, because we already have something going on over there. So let's just move it over here. We make the Enscape tab big. And now the thing is, I think our image is way too bright compared to what we had there. We might leave the exposure there, but I think I will lower the artificial light brightness. So this is what we have right now, and this is the reference image. I think the main reason why this does look a bit darker is just because of the lighting. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to make some changes to the lighting. If I take these off completely, it will be way too dark, but I don't think I have to take those off. I'm just going to go ahead and try to lower the luminous intensity. So maybe something like this can work. 1 second. Okay. So what do you guys think of the image as of now? I think there needs to be a bit of tweaking over here in the auto contrast. I think I will lower the highlights and keep the shadows a bit more harsher. This does make it a bit pop out. And the other thing is, I definitely want to lower the self illuminated part right here. Okay, now what I think we'll do is I'm gonna go ahead and I will take the image as it is right now for this part. So I'm gonna go and into desktop, I will just create the render real quick, and then I will take another close-up shot of it. We'll see how this one turned out. So in just 1 second, once this finishes. By the way, if you do not use Enscape and you don't know how fast it actually works, you can see right now that the image was done in seconds. Obviously this depends on the graphics card, but my graphics card isn't anything crazy anyway. It's a 2060 and it's working very, very fast. So over here, I'm gonna try and create an image, let's say for Instagram. So you're gonna have this kind of aspect ratio. And if I get closer, I'm gonna use 3-point perspective. So this is just kind of to test things out with a different type of angle. Maybe I go for something like this, 2-point perspective, and then lower the field of view, go a bit more backwards. Maybe even lower the artificial light brightness. And now I can just make some changes to the material. Can Enscape do close to realistic mirror? Sometimes some objects did not reflect. Yeah, I mean, this is not the issue with only Enscape. All real-time rendering engines have this issue with mirrors, and that is because it uses GPU rendering. And basically the thing is that mirrors only work well when whatever you're trying to render is on site. So for example, right now, if you don't have something on the side from the camera angle that you're trying to get, the render will not look as good on the mirror. But if you have the element on site with the camera angle, the mirror will look much better. However, mirrors are not the best thing on real-time rendering engines. So yeah, let me try do this real quick. Let's try to add some depth of field. Maybe get a bit closer. I'm trying out some different kind of composition before we move to the last one. So the focal point may be over here. Let's move it closer. Okay, the other thing is we also forgot to make the changes onto this material right here. Let's just make this metallic, keep this at 40, change it to something like this. And now the metallic part on the scones look better. We can take this render. I want to make the depth of field a bit higher. So maybe something like this, take this render as well, and let's just move on. So yeah. By the way, I think we're coming to kind of the end of this render, and if you have any questions, please do let me know in the chat. I will be happy to answer anything that I possibly can. In the meantime, I really want to encourage you to take a look at the 14-day realistic rendering program, because that is where I take you to realistic rendering in just 14 days using the most basic tools like SketchUp and Enscape, which are quick. You do not need a super expensive computer for that, and they just basically work fine. So this is the bathroom render that we created in Enscape today. Obviously, I do know that there's many ways that we can make this better if we were actually to take a closer look on all the details. However, I do not want the live stream to go on forever, and that's why I'm kind of going to stop at this version of the image. I think it's better to paint the wall the opposite of mirror. I do not get what you're trying to say with that, but I think you're trying to mirror the whole model throughout the whole, so the mirror would be a hole instead of like a real material. I did explain that method in one of my videos in the materials video anyway, but I mean, yeah, so this is the image that we're going to stop at. This is the version that we're going to stop at. There's a lot of things that I would make different if I had two or three more hours of work available in here. The lighting here wouldn't be as strong. I would add some I will take off these kind of black parts on the wall paint. I think I would make them a bit more white instead. However, this is not a bad render actually. I'm very, very happy with how it came out in just under, I think we did this in under 50 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So you can see that you can take a render from nothing. So we did the 3D model, we did the lighting, the materials, the visual settings, and all of that in under 15 minutes. Plus, that is while live streaming, so I had to try and focus on talking as well. So it is not the easiest thing. However, let me know if you do want to see more live streams like this, where I go on and take renders from starting point to the final looking render throughout the whole live process. So yeah. Someone asked, how do you keep Enscape open when editing on the software, since it goes behind the software when I edit the model? So there's two ways you can go on about this. The first thing is, if you have the latest update on Enscape, you can do that pretty easily by just going to Enscape window settings. You can go to preferences and you can just use pin Enscape window on top of the host application. And the other option you can go on about that is if you just go ahead in Google and you can just search TurboTop. There's a tool called TurboTop, so I'm just going to type it in chat. Just search TurboTop on Google, and then you will download a tool which lets you have your windows opened, in any type of application, and will keep it on top without taking off anything. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. No problem. You're welcome. Well, if you've enjoyed this live stream, let me know in the comments down below. If you're watching this after the live stream is complete, let me know what you think of the final version of the render that we have here. Thank you for joining and for watching. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Join the Facebook group in the community. I will be sharing a lot more tips there, and I will be going on some live streams on the Facebook group as well. So just in case you actually haven't joined yet, I definitely want you there. So I'm going to just copy the link and paste it on the chat. You can check the link I just posted on the chat, where you can you can just join the Facebook group. And then other than that, make sure to check out the 14-day realistic rendering program as well. I have helped hundreds of people there go from 0 to 100 in just 14 days with SketchUp and Enscape. You can see a lot of testimonials, a lot of work, and it will actually not be on sale by Monday, because that's when the update will come out. Okay, so thank you everyone once again, and I will see you on to the next one. Make sure to hit the notification bell, because there's going to be a lot of new videos coming out this upcoming week.